Thank you so much. What a nice introduction. Thank you. It's absolutely wonderful to be here, especially because I was supposed to be here last year, and I think what prevented me from being here was another major storm. So as I took off on a 10:15 flight last night in the middle of another DC storm, I panicked because for that hour and a half that we spent on the runway, I was thinking to myself, here we go again, here we go again. So I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be here. I do want to mention a couple of people who walked in after Gail had a chance to recognize a few folks. Jeanette Pranger, who's the Vice Chair of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, is here. And then Liz Berman is joining us now. In addition, I want to recognize someone who is very near and dear to me, and for me represents kind of a theme in my personal life, in my Latino life, which is no one walks alone. And Senator Bob Menendez has been a big champion, not just of me, but of the entire Latino community. Just a little story about Senator Menendez. So when his book came out, Growing American Roots, I went immediately to Amazon and I ordered 15 copies, I think. I was so excited because I wanted to get his signature on them. So it's, everyone usually asks me for my signature, but I was thrilled to get Senator Menendez's signature on them. And I wanted to give that out as a gift to my mom and my siblings for the holidays, which I did, and they were all so thrilled to receive it. Not only did he sign it, he actually personalized each one, which surprised me, but again, that just gives you a little bit of a feeling of how, what kind of a person he is. So thank you again, Senator. So as you know, there's a lot going on in DC, and you heard a little bit about my bio. I am the Senior Advisor to the Secretary of Initiative Community Development, and just a little bit of just more perspective or background. I spent about half my career in economic development, which is of course business attraction and retention, job creation. And I worked for six different cities in some type of economic development director or redevelopment director, focused specifically on urban development and issues of Main Street. And so I come here to this job with that passion, with that same initiative for getting things done, especially as it relates to small business. So again, I'm here to talk about a number of things, certainly what's happened in the last couple of years in this, coming out of this recession, and what we foresee in the administration moving forward. I know we'll have some more time with other panelists and some other speakers to talk about this as well, but I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective of specifically what this president, what Treasury has been working on, how it affects the Latino community, and how we can again jumpstart the economy so that we're all heading in the right direction. So I'm sure you've followed the news. I'm sure you know what's going on in Washington. I'm sure Senator Menendez has his own stories as well within Congress. But there's absolutely a lot going on, and there's a reason why there's so much effort being placed on this economy. It didn't always start out as an easy effort, and that's for sure. I mean, if you recall what happened, certainly in the fall of 2008, coming into the election, and certainly when the president assumed office in January of 2009, just a reminder what was happening during that time. In January of 2009, the economy lost over 740,000 jobs. That's 1 month. And so when you think about what's happened in terms of this administration generating over 2 million jobs, 740,000 jobs in 1 month is pretty drastic. And at that time, I think the economy was contracting at a 6% GDP. And so as we look at the forecast moving forward after 1%, 2% of GDP growth, again, we're really climbing out of a very, very, very serious time in our economic history, a very, very serious time. But I can definitely assure you this administration is working extremely hard and will continue to focus on creating jobs and ensuring our economy, our country is economically stable. So we will continue to be at the forefront of every idea put forth. That is kind of one of my, part of my portfolio, in addition to what you heard about the currency, the coin, the bullion, the gold, the community development and community engagement piece. The public engagement piece is certainly something that I take very seriously. So I do participate as part of the White House Winning the Future initiative, where we actually do go out into Main Street, into the communities, and really hear firsthand what exactly is happening to small business and how can we make it better. I consider that a big priority of how I use my time now and how I foresee using my time in the future. So not only is it just this event, it's definitely I want to hear from you what works and what doesn't work, and again, how can we improve. So I want to start off by telling you what happened, certainly with this president as it relates to small business and what happened last September, which was the Small Business Jobs Act. And again, this is something that was passed by Congress. And what it did essentially was it included an additional 8 small business tax cuts. It also extended immediate tax write-offs for most new investments, making it easier for small businesses to make upgrades and buy new equipment. So again, that level of investment was absolutely necessary to jumpstart not just businesses, but also the suppliers that support those businesses. And it completely eliminated the capital gains tax on key small business investments. And most importantly, it made loans more available and gave businesses access to capital. 2 of the programs that came out of the Small Business Jobs Act that are housed in Treasury is the Small Business Lending Fund and also the State Small Business Credit Initiative. Both have been successful programs for the department at Treasury, and also I've had a chance and I will continue to participate to make sure that those funds are allocated. New resources were made available to expand state small business programs that support private sector lending to entrepreneurs. And as of yesterday, the Small Business Lending Fund has provided over $4 billion in capital exclusively to small business banks, with incentives going only to those that increase their lending. Specifically for New York, I just got this information, 12 community banks have received over $82 million in SBLF funding. So that's great news for New York. Both of these programs get down to our local communities within the states to allow businesses to grow and invest. And as you heard, my background is in local economic development, so anything that I can do to make sure that federal dollars get to the local entities is very, very important. No one knows more than the local community what's happening in your own community. So while we have seen some improvements from these programs, it still appears that we absolutely need to do much more, and especially much more for small business. So there's a necessary sequence to this recovery. Without a stable, functional financial system, there is no access to credit. Without access to credit, there is no economic growth. And without economic growth, there is no job creation. So as you've heard, the President has put forth on Labor Day the American Jobs Act. So its main focus is within the following 5 areas. I do want to highlight those for you. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it already, but I want to put it kind of from my perspective, from the economic development perspective, why this is important. So first and foremost, the tax cuts will help America's small businesses hire and grow. It's putting workers back on the job while we're building and modernizing America. It's creating pathways to get Americans back to work who are looking for jobs. And it puts more money in the pockets of every American worker and family. And it is fully paid for as part of the President's long-term deficit reduction plan. We all know that the economic crises and the deep recession weren't created overnight, as I mentioned before, and it will definitely take some time to solve it. But the economic security of the middle class is in jeopardy, and we absolutely have to work to correct that. Passing this bill will put people back to work to rebuild our roads, our bridges, and repair and modernize 35,000 schools and prevent 280,000 teachers from being laid off. And it will cut taxes for small businesses. And here's what's interesting, including 250,000 Latino-owned businesses. I think that's a very important point. It will give businesses the incentives to hire veterans through another tax credit, so that when they return after serving their country, they have the opportunity for employment. I mean, make no mistake, this economy has impacted minorities disproportionately, really. I mean, we all know that, and especially Latinos, we are the future. We are a growing constituency within this community, and so if it impacts the economy, it impacts Latinos. We know that's the case. You know, one of the things I saw too in the Jobs Act that I thought was great was the extension of funding for summer programs for youth. And so that is so near and dear to me. I actually participated in a summer youth employment program when I started out in high school. And that summer that I was hired at 14, good God, at 14, actually led to a permanent job right after that I kept my entire 4 years in high school, 30 hours a week. And in my opinion, if I didn't have that summer youth employment program opportunity, I absolutely do not believe that I would have had the successful high school career that I had and eventually on to Harvard. So when I saw that really is the one piece of it that really drove me, because we are building our future, and that establishing that pipeline of talent within our youth and inspiring the next generation, I can't tell you how important that is for me personally. In addition, another incentive for businesses is a $4,000 tax credit to hire someone who's been on the job hunt for 6 months or more. The president used a work program in Georgia for the basis of this tax credit, so again, taking from state and local economic development best practices. The president used they took people who collect unemployment and put them to work on a temporary basis as a way to build their skill set while they continue to search for a permanent job. And there will be an emphasis placed on putting construction workers back on the job by modernizing infrastructure. So again, in my past life as a director of economic development and redevelopment, redevelopment was the ability to use tax increment financing specifically on infrastructure investments. So again, something near and dear to my heart. The president's plan includes $50 billion in immediate investments for highway safety, transit, passenger rail, and aviation activities. In addition, the plan would offer $50 million to enhance employment and job training opportunities for women, minorities, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals in these related activities in 2012. The investments in this type of infrastructure would translate to overall improved neighborhoods for everyone, especially Latinos, and specifically for the 2.77 million that work in the construction sector. In response to the housing aspect of the economic crises, there is a proposal to invest $15 billion in an effort to rehabilitate and refurbish hundreds of thousands of vacant and foreclosed homes and businesses. As you recall from the last Small Business Jobs Act, employees started receiving more money in their paychecks, and the payroll tax deduction will be extended with this new bill, since that provision is set to expire at the end of the year. We estimate that the typical working family will get $1,500 as a tax credit next year, and this is money that can be used for groceries, for gas, or other items that are needed in the short term, and will benefit 25 million Latino families. So these initiatives will not be possible without the support of Congress, so we look forward to supporting the president as we work together to get this bill passed. And just some closing remarks. Small business is definitely what I feel connected to, and it just so happens, as it turns out, that small business is absolutely at the forefront of this economic recovery and for job creation. So this new bill will allow us to reconnect and allow entrepreneurs to feel confident opening their doors and hiring new employees or expanding existing operations. I assure you that I will continue to do everything in my power to ensure that the jobs are created or maintained and that the American public can start to take a deep breath after what has been a very long and extremely tough road for all of us. We are moving in the right direction, and the support will come from the federal level, the state level, and local levels, and most of all, will have an effect at the Main Street level. And hopefully some of you have had a chance to turn into President Obama's Open Questions Roundtable that he hosted yesterday from the White House. It was intended to address the issues that matter most to the Latino community. So again, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I will be available for the panel and also for questions afterwards. So thank you so much for having me here today.